Summary of A Little Cloud by James Joyce. A Little Cloud is about a day in the life of Thomas Chandler, who was called Little Chandler because he was short and looked like a child. Little Chandler is very excited to see his old friend Ignatius Gallaher on this day. Gallaher moved from Dublin to London 8 years ago to improve his work as a journalist. Now that Gallaher is back in Dublin to stay, he has asked Little Chandler to meet him. Little Chandler watches out the window as he does his boring work as a law clerk and thinks about Gallaher's life as a brilliant figure on the London press. These thoughts make Little Chandler sad because they remind him of how little he has done. Little Chandler wants to be a poet and has a collection of poetry books, but he is too shy to even read them to his wife. Little Chandler leaves his office at the agreed-upon time to meet Gallaher at a place called Corliss's. He starts to feel more confident and hopeful as he walks to the restaurant. Little Chandler thinks of the restaurant as a fancy place where rich, stylish people go to eat. He also remembers Gallaher from the past. His friend drank a lot and was bad with money, but he was very skilled and everyone looked up to him. Little Chandler gets a new sense of self-worth when he thinks about the restaurant and his amazing old friend. He says, for the first time in his life, he felt himself superior to the other people in Dublin. He then looks at the city with a critical eye and sees that the buildings and people are in bad shape. Little Chandler's dream of becoming a poet and getting away from his own sober, unartistic life is brought back to life by this feeling of power. He thinks that, at age 32, he's not too old to start a new job. He also thinks he has the right kind of personality to be an artist. Little Chandler imagines that Gallaher will help him get published in a London newspaper and that English writers will call him part of the Celtic school of new Irish authors. He even makes up words of praise for his future songs in his head and imagines changing his name to T. Malone Chandler, which sounds more Irish. He gets so caught up in his dreams that he misses his turn and has to go back the way he came to get to the restaurant. Little Chandler goes to Corliss's. When he gets there, Gallaher calls him Tommy and orders malt whiskey for both of them. Gallaher looks old and balding before his time, and he has an unhealthy pallor. He says that the stress of his job as a writer is to blame for how he looks and that his life moves too fast. The two guys talk about their old friends and then move on to talk about Gallaher's trips in Europe. Little Chandler hasn't been to many places, so he wants to know if Paris is really as beautiful and immoral as he has heard. Gallaher hails the Moulin Rouge, Parisian prostitutes, and the city's nightlife, saying everything in Paris is gay. He keeps telling all kinds of dirty stories from his trips. Little Chandler is a little bit disappointed by Gallaher because he thinks he is vulgar and gaudy. The talk goes to what has happened to Little Chandler in the past 8 years. Little Chandler tells Gallaher about his wife and their baby son, and he asks Gallaher to spend the night with his family. Gallaher says he can't go because he has to go back to London the next day. He says he might come back in a year. At this point, the two men have had a few drinks, which is normal for Gallaher but not for Little Chandler, who feels warm and excited. Little Chandler feels weak and jealous when he talks and drinks with Gallaher, and he starts to dislike Gallaher's success. Little Chandler thinks about how his old friend is born and educated below him. Little Chandler thinks sadly that if he were given a chance, he could do something higher than mere tawdry journalism. Little Chandler jokes that the next time he sees Gallaher, he might be married. This is while they are having their last drink together. Gallaher says no because he wants to keep his fling going and see a little bit of life and the world first. He says that when he does get married, it will be for money and that he will choose from the thousands of rich Germans and Jews he has met in Europe. As they finish their drinks, Gallaher says in a rude way that being married to the same woman for life must get a bit stale. Little Chandler then goes home to find that his wife, Annie, is angry because he is late for tea and because he forgot to bring her a package of coffee. She gives Little Chandler their baby and tells him not to wake the sleeping child while she goes to get tea and sugar. Little Chandler thinks about his wife when he is alone with the baby and his own thoughts. Little Chandler is sad when he looks at a picture of Annie and thinks about what kind of person she is. He thinks she is cold and small-minded and that she has no passion and no rapture. Instead, little Chandler dreams about Gallaher's rich Jewesses and their dark oriental eyes. He is even unhappy with the furniture in their home, which he says is prim and pretty. As he thinks about leaving his little house to live bravely like Gallaher and become an artist in London, his thoughts become more angry. Little Chandler tries to read a book of Lord Byron's poems, but the child wakes up and starts crying, so Chandler has to stop. Little Chandler gets angry because he can't read and thinks he's a prisoner for life. He yells "stop" in the baby's face because he is angry. This makes the baby even more upset, and he starts crying even harder, making little Chandler worry that the baby will die. This is when Annie gets home. When she sees that the baby is upset, she asks little Chandler in a very angry voice, "What have you done to him?" She picks up their baby and calms him. When the baby stops crying, tears of remorse start to form in little Chandler's eyes.
About the author. James Joyce was a key figure in modernist writing. In his novels and short stories, he pushed the limits of subject matter and style. Joyce was born and raised in Dublin, Ireland. Even though his family was poor, he went to Jesuit schools and later graduated from University College Dublin. Joyce was raised in the Catholic Church, but he lost his faith when he was young. This is one reason why his later work criticizes deception and strict religious piety. In 1904, he met the love of his life, Nora Barnacle. They lived together for a long time before they got married in 1931. In 1904, the couple moved to mainland Europe, where they spent the rest of their lives. They only made short trips back to Ireland. Joyce worked as an English teacher in Italy, Switzerland, and Paris before she became a famous author. Joyce wrote Dubliners and Portrait of the Artist as a young man and ended his most famous work, Ulysses, during this time. This groundbreaking book was based on Homer's Odyssey. It brought Joyce fame and recognition because of its honest subject matter, stream of consciousness style, changing points of view, and non-chronological narration. Joyce's eyesight was so bad that he had to wear an eye patch and later have 9 treatments to fix it. Joyce died at age 58 in 1941.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.